Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today here at Advanta IRA. We have a wonderful guest, Adrian Smoot, who is going to be covering how to invest in mobile homes and kind of everything you need to know from start to finish as a very general introduction to people that are potentially looking to invest in these very interesting types of investments that are really kind of gaining in popularity, especially with the seemingly endless rise in the price of single-family, more traditional homes. With that said, thank you again very much for everyone for joining. My name is Alex Perney. I've been with Advanta here since 2012. I can answer any specific questions that you have regarding specifically to IRAs and how these will work within the construct of purchasing mobile homes or any other type of investment structures that you might be interested in. My contact information is directly up there on the board, so feel free to reach out to me directly with any specific questions on the IRA side of things that I can help you with. A quick disclaimer before we get started: Advanta IRA and our employees do not provide investment advice, nor do we endorse or promote any investment products. All information and materials are for educational purposes only, and all parties are encouraged to consult with their attorneys, accountants, and financial advisors before entering into any type of investment. Just a little bit about us before we hand it over to Adrian. We're a self-directed IRA retirement plan investor, meaning that we allow for clients to invest in alternatives to the stock market, things such as real estate, precious metals, mobile homes, directly within their IRAs without having to pay taxes and penalties to do those types of investments personally with their accrued investment basis in these types of accounts. We have well over 20 years of industry experience as a self-directed IRA custodian with plenty of certified IRA services professionals on our staff. We have just a touch over $1.8 billion of assets under administration. Any and all deposits that are made to an Advanta account are fully FDIC insured, so you're not giving up any of the typical suite of protections and assurances that you're used to from a more traditional brokerage standpoint to do self-directed investing. And we understand that this type of investing is requiring of a certain personal touch. Every single client here at Advanta has a dedicated account manager that works directly with them and their account to get any and all investments done. You're not going to call into a phone bank and get someone new every time. So every single person has a great dedicated service that we're very proud to offer here at Advanta IRA. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to the reason that most of y'all have tuned in today, my good friend Adrian Smoot, who is going to be covering investing in mobile homes. He is a resident of Polk County, Florida, which is where Lakeland is located. He has been investing in mobile homes and real estate for many years, and I'll let him get into a little bit more of his background as well. But with that said, we're very grateful to have Adrian Smoot on with us today, and I'll turn it over to him. Adrian?
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Advanta, for having me on here today. As you can see from the screen, my wife buys mobile homes, and my role is being a husband and wearing the t-shirt everywhere I go. And as Alex mentioned earlier as well, if you have any questions throughout, just put them in the chat and Alex will help me make sure we get all those answered. I'm going to get started with my disclaimer as well. I'm just going to add on to what Alex already said. If you're listening to this, make this your own. Take what works for you. Not everything I say is going to work with your risk tolerance and your personality. What we have done for our business is attended many seminars and education, and we take a little bit from everyone's and we've made it our own. Of course, you have to comply with fair housing, and as Alex already said, trust but verify, consult with your own attorney and CPA. Let's get started with the famous question by Pete Fortunato. Why would you sell a nice home like this? 2 years ago, we sold this home. It was appraised at $198,000. We had about $90,000 of equity, and we had what most people would consider pretty good bank financing. 27 years, 4.25%. And most importantly, we had cash flow. We had, clicking and it's not going forward. Alex, maybe you can help me.
It should. I just clicked to open up the question box. You should have full control back
Okay.
again. Sometimes it just takes a second to switch back and forth.
All right, let me see. All right, there we go. So most importantly, we had the cash flow. We had $386 net a month. So the question again is, why would we sell a nice ranch style home like this? Well, obviously it's for mobile homes. We did a 1031 exchange into 7 mobile homes with the dirt. So quickly, if anyone doesn't understand a 1031 exchange, basically we deferred the taxes. We took the money that we made with that property and with the same amount of debt, and we had to purchase homes with it, and we don't have to pay the taxes in the year that we sold. So again, 7 mobile homes. The total was $174,000. That's a purchase price and the closing cost for all 7 of these. If you do your math real quick, that means we did spend some of the money because we do like to travel. We like to do things besides just roll all of our money back into real estate. Of course, we had to do some repairs. So we did about $50,000 repairs. That may seem very low for people that have been only in the ranch style single family space, but we did that between all of these properties. But the most important reason of why we did this is our new net cash flow was $3,311. That is about 8.5 times the new net cash flow. Cash flow is why we invest in mobile homes. We love eating off of cash flow. That is how we live. That's how we travel. We look for cash flow more than equity. Now a little bit about me. About 19 years ago, I was being evicted. And these are a few of the eviction notices that I received. My favorite one here in the middle is asking us to please stop parking the motorcycle inside the home. My friend was parking his motorcycle inside the house, and again, we got evicted. Ended up being a great thing for my investing career because my family member that was in a mortgage broker, he said buy a house. So I bought this one right here. Looking back, I found out that I only put $1,500 down to buy the house because 18.5 years ago, you didn't need anything to buy a house. The banks gave money away for free. $1,500, I moved all my friends in that helped me get evicted, and that worked out way better than it should have because I didn't have to evict any of my friends. That might mean I was a lot of the problem, but I really started to like it because I wasn't paying to live in this house. They were paying my mortgage. So I decided, all right, I'll buy a second house. Well, that didn't work out so well because I bought the second house at the top of the market. I had an arm. I was losing a little bit every month, but it's okay. You can refinance in a few years. Well, when you buy at the top, you can't refinance because prices start going down. I held a little bit longer than I should have. Ended up with a short sale. And in hindsight, that's one of the best things that happened to me because it made me a very conservative investor. I couldn't do anything for a few years because I had a short sale on my record, but I eventually attended some RIAs. And that's when I really started learning about the investment world outside of banks and bought a few more properties. And at the RIAs, I started just listening to the real seasoned investors, the guys and girls in the back of the room. They don't have to do another deal. They just really enjoy investing in real estate. Most of them had been doing it for longer than I've been alive. They all mentioned mobile homes. They either owned them at the time, or at some point they owned them, or they knew someone that did really, really, really well off of mobile homes. So I said, what the heck, I'll try it out. So today, our business is primarily buying mobile homes with the land and renting them out. We do a little bit of wholesaling, host a mastermind, and then speaking and teaching. This house right here in the picture, We actually just sold it a week and a half ago. And the reason we decided to sell it is we did the simple math. How much equity do we have? How much are we bringing in net on that equity? And it was 5.6%. And we decided that we could make more than 5.6% in mobile homes and other investments. So that is our decision to sell. Let's get back to mobile homes. We're going to get into some nuts and bolts of them. You want to put in the chat which one here, the left, middle, or right, is the trailer and which is a manufactured home. I can't see anything happening in the chat, so I'm not sure if
no one's piping up, but
no one knows. Andy Teasley doesn't even know.
Andy just said the correct answer. It depends on, are you buying or selling?
Yeah, I knew Andy would know. Yeah, so it all depends on your buying. If you're selling it, they're all manufactured homes. If you're buying it, they're all a trailer. So it's all perception. So in my opinion, there's three types of mobile home investing. There's buying with the rented land. So you only own the home. You owe every month lot rent. There's buying the home and land together. So a single mobile home, you buy the dirt and you rent it out. That's our main business. And then mobile home parks. You collect lot rent or you rent them all out. And we'll get into some specifics of each of these shortly. But first, let's talk about, just in general, some information about mobile homes. So this is one of the ones that we bought 2 years ago. It's up in Zephyr Hills, the 1990s, double wide, as you can see. It was a hoarder house. Actually, it was a drug house as well. It's a rather large one, but it was only a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And so while I start walking the properties, obviously we start outside, and one of the first things I start looking for is in the window. I look for the sticker, and if you squint real hard, you can see right here in the middle, it looks like there's something in the window, and it's a sticker letting you know that it's retired the title. In Florida, we use this black sticker, and it means retired the title. They took the paperwork and made the home and land one together. So they joined it together. There's a little bit more detail on that. The title company can explain that, but that's in general what's happening. You pay taxes as if it was one unit. The other way is if you only own the home. So if it's in a park, or if you have two separate entities, one owns the land, one owns the home, then you get a nice colorful sticker. And every single year you have to renew that sticker. It works just like your car. Here in Florida, we renew them at the end of the year, not on our birth dates. So back to the home, we're walking around and we see that there's no skirting underneath. Right underneath here, it's all empty. That means we are going to have to replace that, which is going to cost a little bit of money, but it makes it easier for the walkthrough because we can just look straight underneath to see our tie downs and piers. If you're familiar with wood frame homes, you already know about the piers. That's what the home actually sits on. That's these concrete blocks. And really what I'm looking for, are they there? And then are they level? Are they starting to lean over? Am I going to have to do some work to straighten them up? And then your tie downs are what keep your wobbly boxes from falling over. That's these straps, these metal straps right here. And those anchor the home physically to the ground. Now, every municipality is going to have different ruling on how far apart these are allowed to be. So you're going to want to check with your local municipality. And why should you care is if you're going to fix and flip, they're going to have to come up to date because a homeowner's insurance policy is going to require that. If you're going to just keep it as a rental like we do, they're not going to need to come up to date because there are a few insurance companies out there, if you decide to insure it, that do not require the most up-to-date code. I'm not only looking to see if they're up to date, I'm looking to see if they're actually there, if they're broken, if they're really rusty, because we do want to make sure the home is safe. Now this one is out in Auburndale. It's another one of the ones we bought in that exchange. And it's a 1973. It's a 2-1. It's a single wide. And we bought it from a very tired landlord. He actually shouldn't have ever been a landlord, but I think he inherited the property. He didn't even want to show me the property because the tenant did not have his phone number, and he knew she was going to talk to him, and he was scared that she was going to ask for his phone number if I didn't buy it. So obviously we bought it. But as we're walking around here, we notice that there's a tongue still in the front. That's how they pulled the home in back in 1973. And we're looking for the VIN. Now there's a chance the VIN is stamped on that tongue if it's the original. Most of the time it is cut off because at some point they wanted to sell it for scrap metal. And if we can't find it there, we go inside. And this is the data plate. Now they didn't require these before June of 1976. And most of the time the home has been remodeled, so they've ripped this off the wall and they never put it back. But hopefully you can find it. It's usually in the master bedroom closet. That's the only place I've seen it. I have read about it being in the breaker box or in the kitchen cabinet inside, usually underneath the sink. Why do you want to know this? It just shows the win rating, where it was made, the actual date of it, and it has the VIN. It helps you know that you're buying the home that the title is going to show the home is for. If you can't find it either way, either of the two places, you can crawl underneath the front I-beam. It's supposed to be stamped into that I-beam. I can tell you that we have looked for that and couldn't find it, because if it's a 1970s or even 60s, it's probably pretty rusty and it can be pretty difficult. I mean, bring a flashlight, but I've never been able to find it. And we have purchased homes that we did not know the VIN and we did not get a title to. It's part of the risk, so obviously you want a bigger discount for that.
Hey, Adrian, I got a good question before we get too far into this, before we get too far away from it. But Stephen asked a question regarding straps. What does it cost to strap and level a mobile home, and is there a general cost range for that?
Great question. So we have never actually done that because, as I mentioned, we just buy and hold them. But it's going to depend on the size. So obviously a double wide is going to cost you more, and then the actual dimensions. But it ranges, from the quotes I've heard, anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000. Right now, I haven't found anyone to even recommend to do the actual work. I've been looking for someone because the people I had met in the past, I've had bad feedback from investors that I recommended them to. So it can be a little difficult to find someone to do the actual work, to get it inspected and the paperwork to give to the insurance saying, hey, it has been updated. Those guys are a little easier to come by. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, no additional stuff. I'll interject if there's another one that pops in.
All right. So the title. This looks just like your car title. The difference is if it's a single wide, you're going to get one of them. And if it's a double wide, you're going to get two of them. If it's a triple wide, obviously you're going to get three. Now, the only difference in these 2 or 3 titles is going to be one character within the VIN. If it's a double wide, one of the characters is going to be an A, the other is going to be a B. And if it's a triple wide, the third one is going to be a C. That's how you know these homes were meant to be married together. Again, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy it if they're not matching. We have purchased when it was 2 single wides together, but you want to check that so then you now know I need to inspect this home a little closer. Maybe there's a roof over. If there's not, you really want to check the seam where they attach the 2 single wides together. You want to check the electrical because they weren't meant to be together. So someone went in there and manipulated the two single wides to make sure it works. In my opinion, that's just more reason for a bigger discount. And obviously, a bank's not going to finance two single wides married together. So insurance, I get questions about this a lot. I recommend everyone always have liability. I think not having liability insurance is very silly. It's very cheap. We personally carry $1 million of coverage on every single property because it is very cheap. Now, named storm coverage is where I get a lot of the questions. We're here in Florida, that means hurricanes. I hear up north they even name snowstorms now. But if it's in my area, and when I say my area, I really mean Central Florida, because this changes even out in Pinellas County. As closer you get to the shoreline where the hurricanes are worse, the insurance is different. But 1980s and newer, we can get hurricane coverage through a few companies. If it's older than that, we cannot get hurricane coverage. We just get coverage on the home. Typically, we just make the decision on how much we paid for it. Sometimes insurance is only a few dollars more, and we'll cover the home from a fire or a tree or something. A lot of times we do self-insure, but we always have that liability insurance. And if anyone is looking for, I can give some referrals of who we actually use depending on which ones you're looking for. Just send me a message later. So marketing, how do we find these homes? We know what to look for now. We know the insurance. We find them the exact same way that you find any single family home. Only thing we do is we replace the word house with mobile home. So the signs on the side of the road, Google AdWords, we bought them off the MLS, postcards, door knocking, letters, all of those things work. But what we have found that works the best is realtor referrals and networking. I know Advanta has, is it once or twice a month you guys have the Friday networking, and it's all on Zoom?
Yeah, we just had it Pitch, Promote, and Prosper. We're back into doing it every other week, so every other Friday. So the next one will be next week. We do host a Zoom call. About 50 to 80 people are on it, all investors pitching and networking together.
Those are great ways to find people that are not interested in mobile homes. There's a lot of people on here today, and at the end of it, there'll still be people on here that decide mobile homes are not for me. But now they're educated a little bit, and you can tell them that's great, send them to me. We've gotten a lot of our properties from referrals from other investors. We do a lot of networking. Realtors, the same idea. A lot of realtors don't want to do the work for a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 listing because it's about the same amount of work as a $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 listing. So they'd rather get the bigger payout. And a lot of realtors still want to be able to help their clients, so they just refer them, and we always try to keep everyone in the deal. So networking and letting people know, hey, I will take this niche, that has paid off very well for us. So financing them. Now you find one, you're ready to buy it. But how do you finance this beautiful 1962? It comes with most of the siding. And we actually had to mow the grass, I would say grass, but the almost hedges around it to even take this picture. No bank is going to finance this. Banks, the big banks will typically only do 20 years old of a home. So they're not going to do anything like this. Community banks, credit unions, most of them have told me they will finance. Some of them have even said all the way back to 1976, but that's for owner-occupied only, not for investors. Everything needs to be up to code, as we talked about earlier, the straps and piers, the skirting, and then everything you would find in a normal inspection. So how did we finance this beautiful home? This one was owner financing. We have found that a lot of mobile home owners already understand that they cannot sell it to someone with bank financing. A lot of them even bought with owner financing, so they're a little more familiar with how it works. This one in particular, he was a seasoned investor. He was just burned out. He also had a restaurant that he owned, operated, cooked in. He was in his 70s. He was trying to do all the work himself, and it didn't work because he was just never getting over there. So he was very burned out. And when I say seasoned investor, when I gave my title company the agreement, she's like, "Oh, I know him. He was that much of a regular in the past." And he financed it to us $1,000 down, $100 a month. Obviously, we had to put a lot of work into it. And I don't know who was more excited about that, him or me. I mean, he gave me a hug and was almost crying because he was finally done with this home lingering over his head that he kept thinking about having to drive out there after working a 10-hour day. So not everyone's going to work for owner financing. So how do we finance those properties if we don't use our own cash? Well, private money, and in particular, self-directed IRAs. What Advanta specializes in. We finance a lot of them this way. Now, mobile homes, in my opinion, produce a much higher cash flow because there's a little bit more risk and there's less demand for them. And if we have a much higher cash flow, we're able to pay our private money better than most people pay their ranch-style single-family private money. It's been really good for people that we pay out in the self-directed IRAs. I will say that from my experience, you need to not only have someone that understands private money, but then understands mobile homes. So again, there'll be people on this call that decide, I don't want to do any of this work, but now I understand a little bit about mobile homes, I have some money. So coming back and networking with those people is a great way to find your private money for mobile homes. All right, moving on to actually picking the area and the property you want to buy. One of my mentors, Lenny Simador, always says, when you buy your home, you buy your tenant. So this means if you buy a good home in a good area, you're probably going to get a good tenant. If you buy a bad home in a bad area, you're probably going to get a bad tenant. So we have built an avatar for our ideal tenant. We want a blue-collar handyman or handy woman that wants to move in and stay there a very, very, very long time. So what do we look for when we're buying a home? We look for a workshop that might be on it because we know our ideal tenant wants a workshop. It has enough land that they can move their utility trailer on and off of every day. They don't want an HOA because their HOAs usually have problems with utility trailers and maybe even a little bit of a rundown truck because it's a work truck. Our ideal tenant wants at least a quarter acre of land because they want to bring their pigs and chickens and rabbits and all these other animals that are not traditionally accepted in a small little community. So we build or look for our properties and build them out to satisfy that person. The other thing we do is we are comfortable with letting someone move in with a house that is ugly. So we make our homes safe and livable, but I'll say a little bit ugly sometimes. We don't paint because for what it does for me is when I'm showing the property to multiple people, one of them will say, hey, do you mind if I paint? And I light up, that's a check mark in their corner. Because I know they're going to take pride and take care of the property. The other person's going to say, hey, are you going to paint? And that's not for me because that means they want me to do everything for them. There's nothing wrong with it. There's certain homes that's what they need to look for is someone that's going to provide everything for them. So you need to keep this in mind when you're looking for your ideal property. Not only that, but how much work do you really want to do? This top right one up here is our ideal property. We didn't have to do almost any work to it. It was virtually move-in ready. It was on that quarter-acre lot. It was in a safe neighborhood. I felt safe letting my wife drive by alone. It attracted a good handyman tenant. They immediately made the place beautiful by planting plants and even adding a non-attached carport and everything in the back. That's my ideal. This bottom one, we did buy it, but it's not my ideal because it required a lot of work. I don't want to do that work, and honestly, I don't even want to manage the contractor to do all of that work. We do it at times, but it's not our ideal tenant or our ideal property. This top left one would be something that's inside of a park. We have purchased those, and we might again in the future, but from our experience, the parks that we chose were a little more time intensive management wise because we did choose parks that were a little lower end. So you just have to take all of this into account. In the growth phase, you usually take a little bit of whatever you can get, but I recommend still keeping it pretty close to your ideal. And maybe you say, all of these singles are too slow. I don't like the idea of having only one. I want a huge parking lot, and this bottom right one would be your ideal. So then don't even go after the singles. Now, my brother does the same idea, but he has a totally different avatar. The person that he wants living in his properties is someone that's going to understand and respect the downtown historic culture, probably someone that's going to walk downtown Plant City. So he has an 1890s quadplex. What has he done to attract his ideal person over my ideal person? He hangs up pictures of the original house and the original community. When he does have to do repairs, he tries to keep that old house look and keeps it safe. He does everything very nice. So he's getting a tenant that is going to want everything done for them. In a normalized rental market, because we are not currently in one of those because there's so few properties available, but in a normalized rental market, him and I do not have the same tenant competing at all, because my person wants somewhere they can park a trailer and live alone. His person enjoys the community and the walkability to the downtown and the historic part of it. So as long as you build that ideal tenant, you're going to have a much more successful and a happier time being a landlord. All right, time for a pop quiz. If you can get your fingers ready on the keyboard. What are the 3 types of mobile home investments? And I think you're going to have to read those out if anyone.
Yeah, I'm just waiting. Andy just chimed in with a quick question. I'll see if someone pipes in with the answer to it.
All right, we may have people just listening in today.
Yeah, so maybe just go ahead.
All right, so on rented land, meaning you're going to pay the lot rent with the land, what we've been talking about that we mainly do, where you buy the home and land and then the whole mobile home park. Our second question is, how many titles do you get with a double wide? And our answer is 2, if anyone was paying attention.
We got a couple people getting the right answer.
All right, great. We do have some people paying attention. All right, you said that Andy had a question, or is he just heckling me?
No, actually, we actually have 2 questions. But thanks, Dave, Willie, Kendra, and Stephen for chiming in with the correct answers. Always great to have some engagement. We'll just chalk back to Barbie had a question. Where are you purchasing appliances for units like fridge, dishwasher, stoves, etc.? If you put that kind of stuff in, is there any good tips, places to find that kind of stuff?
When we were purchasing all of those, we were getting them from a used appliance store, which became pretty difficult because it seems like they show up on a corner and they have a shop, and then next time I go there, that shop's closed down.
That's the truth of those places.
Yeah, we've recently moved to we're not supplying them at all. If there are any in there, we give them to the tenant. If the tenant, the applicant is someone that looks like they're going to be a really good applicant, and they really ask us for them, we will talk to them about maybe giving them $100, $200 for them to go buy their own. We have stopped doing appliances altogether because that's the most calls that we get. And in reality, we're going to buy a cheap refrigerator to put in there. And most of the people that we've ever given an option to, hey, we'll give you $100 or we'll buy one, they always take the $100 because they'll put another 100 with it and buy something nicer.
Exactly. And then Andy asked, why don't you split the fee selling the mobile home and leasing the dirt?
Well, Andy, that's your niche. I have not done that yet. I do plan to take your advice and at least try it. That's it. I don't have a reason besides that. I just haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, I've seen, just on a personal anecdote, I've seen some clients of ours have some pretty good success with that, doing retail installment contracts on those up in Georgia. So kind of interesting way to frame it.
Essentially, what Andy's talking about there is a single mobile home park. So it's a 1-unit mobile home park.
Yep.
You can think of it that way.
All right, and then let's just knock these questions out before we transition.
Okay.
We have, let's see, how to compare the returns of mobile homes versus a mobile home park. Let's do that one.
We have never purchased a mobile home park. I know that they've become pretty popular in the last probably 1.5 to 2 years. There hasn't been the returns that I want on a full park. So I can't give that exact answer. I think that you are getting a little less of a ROI, but you're getting more of a monthly payment. So you can't get kind of stuck on just ROI when you look at a full park. And we'll talk about some of the other benefits that I see in mobile home parks later on.
Good. And then last question before we move on, how does rented land differ from mobile home parks from Kendra?
Let's get into that right now. We'll talk about that right now. All right. So there we go. So these are mobile homes that are on rented land. These are all different ones that we have purchased. We only own the home, and we have to pay lot rent every month. So some pros of these are very cheap to get in. I mean, we've spent $2,300 up to $5,000 for the different mobile homes in the parks that we've bought. So there should be fantastic ROI, the recession proof, and your ability to build rapport with the owner of the park, because you're making a monthly payment every single month. And you can pop your head in there every once in a while and say, hey, how you doing? I'd love to own a park like this one day if you know anyone. You can build that rapport. Some of the cons that I don't like is the park manager makes all the rules. So this bottom right one, the big picture, we bought that one for $5,000, and our strategy on this one was actually to sell the home on payments. But we put it for sale for $11,000 on payments. We found an excellent buyer, tenant. Everything looks great for me. I told them to go fill out the park application, and then the park manager said, our software is locked up. We can't run their application right now. Well, that continued for over a month. Park manager knew I was still going to pay the lot rent, so I still had to pay lot rent. Luckily, I did not lose my tenant buyer before they got it fixed. I wasn't a high priority on their list because they had a lot of things to do. So I like control a little bit more, and you lose that with the parks. These other two on the left, we did sell these earlier this year. They were a little bit of our headache properties. They consumed more time because they were in a pretty low end part. But the real reason we sold them for cash is we got an email about the third of the month from the park manager saying, rules changed. You can no longer have a rental in this park. You have to have them out of your name by the end of the month. I have no idea if I could have fought them, if I could have done anything. I don't like to put my energy towards fighting stuff like that. So I just said, all right, and we sold them for cash. But we lost the control because the park manager makes the rules. But again, these aluminum castles have great ROI in the recession proof. Now, mobile homes with the land, our main business. Now, these are still relatively cheap to get into. They're going to obviously cost more than just the home because you're buying some dirt with it. They're still great ROI. They're still recession proof. And I believe, as we already talked about, there's a pretty good chance of owner financing on these. Some of the cons are older homes have more problems. You know, you just bake that into your numbers, so you should be getting a higher ROI. Financing is an issue for a lot of people, but we already talked about some different ways to get around that. So now you know where most people don't understand the financing for them. And this retro look of this yellow cabinets or countertops, a lot of them aren't updated. People don't seem to update the inside of the home as fast as people have updated site-built homes. This one with the yellow, it even came with shag carpet and a carpet rake. I was planning to hold off and see if it came back in style, but my handyman got rid of all that, so we didn't get a chance to find out if that was going to happen. But mobile homes with the land, again, great ROI. Oh, clicking. And
Yeah, I think
recession proof. There we go.
great. So if you're about to switch slides, I got a couple good questions here that might kind of fit real well into what you just talked about. Let's see. So Roxana asked, what is the typical % of operating expense on the types of homes you buy?
So we have bought a lot of older homes, 60s and 70s. And that's really because that's what the market gave us. I always prefer something newer, 80s and 90s. We've unfortunately never bought anything newer than that. But it's going to be very similar to your ranch style house, that older homes, if they had not been updated, they're going to require more maintenance. As I described our avatar for our preferred tenant that we're comfortable with, they have really reduced our repair costs and maintenance. I'll say an example. This is something we're comfortable with. I wouldn't recommend doing it unless you're comfortable with this, but I give a holiday gift every year, and one year I received a text thanking me for it, and then he said, oh yeah, by the way, I replumbed the whole bathroom. I knew nothing about that. He took it upon himself to take care of that. It cost me nothing. I thanked him for it. Now, you know, the guy was a handyman and a plumber, so I'm comfortable with that. I wouldn't want him doing electric if he's not an electrician. So that is one way that we've really kept our costs down. So I can't fully answer that question from our numbers, but we do run our numbers for the normal 10% repairs, just like a site-built home. A lot of if it's an older, cheaper home, I say cheaper because thin walls, smaller doors, a lot of those items cost a little less. You can buy them used. You're not doing a super high finish. And if you are doing a super high finish, you're just upgrading to the same materials that are inside of a site-built home.
Awesome, great. I think that answers that pretty well. And then Jim asks, when you're selling on owner financing, how are you complying with Dodd-Frank?
Well, I would tell you to talk to a loan originator. One thing that we're doing that we believe keeps us compliant is we're just not doing, I think it's more than 3 a year. I know every state is a little different, and we're not doing more than that number so that we don't have to go through all the paperwork. If we were doing a bunch of them, I would hire a loan, LMO, a loan originator, to basically go through all the paperwork to make sure all the disclosures are there. But we do very few of those. So that's really one way we stay compliant, is we just don't do them that often.
And then just one, he asked a follow-up question. So then most of your homes are on lease, question mark?
Yes, most of ours are leased. I guess I'll kind of combine the other question. If we are going to sell it to the person, we'll do a lease option, or as Jack Shea calls it, a contract for option. We'll do that so then we can build a relationship, make sure that the people are going to actually perform. We get to test drive each other. My accountant likes it better, and we'll do that. And if they choose to have us accept the payments instead of going to their cousin or someone else to cash them out or cash us out, then that's when we'll sit down and take care of the rest of the paperwork. But most of our properties are just a lease.
Awesome. That finishes up the questions. Let's keep on moving.
All right. So we have left mobile home parks. Pros that I see in these is a better chance of owner financing. We talked about earlier building the rapport with the owner. If you have just some what I'll call Lonnie deals in there, where you are buying just the home and then selling it on payments, but you're making the payment to the park, the lot rent. And a lot of these owner operators, they've owned them for a really long time. So if you're able to sit down and educate them on what their tax burden is going to be if they sell it for cash, I would assume that any logical owner would consider some type of owner financing. To me, there's 2 main ways to run a mobile home park. You either own all the homes, all the land, you own everything, so you have a flat apartment complex, or you own just the dirt. You own a big parking lot. The big parking lot is the style that fits me better because I don't like to do tons and tons of management. Mobile home park that we're looking for would be something in the path of progress, because to me, I have a lotto ticket in there of a builder coming in and buying me out one day. There's still great ROI. You know, I can't speak to exactly what people are getting because I haven't purchased one yet. I still know they're recession proof because they're the affordable housing market. Some of the cons that I don't like from a wobbly box farm is government regulation. I have friends that tell me about having to do monthly inspections, having to have the special license for this, depending on the city they're in, or different things like that. I personally don't love that. And then tenants talk to each other. You know, I heard a decent amount of mobile home parks having issues through COVID and the eviction moratorium because tenants were able to talk and band together. We didn't have any of that with our single sites because we had good communication, we treat our tenants well, and I believe part of it is because they couldn't attempt to band together from that. Again, the great ROI, recession proof. And if people aren't grasping exactly what I mean by recession proof, I mean that this is the affordable housing market. It's, we'll say, the low end of the price range of houses. If houses rent in that area from $800 to $3,000, we're at the $800 to maybe $1,200. That's where most of our stuff is at. Well, when we have a recession and we have a 2-income family, one of them loses their job, they're most likely going to downsize. Maybe not a home that they love, but they're going to downsize to something they can afford. Well, that will continue down until you get to the affordable housing, and it doesn't continue down because there's more demand. And when there's more demand, I mean, theoretically, the price of these rents could go up. So we'll have a bigger pool of people to select, which is very important to me. So we should be able to hopefully not lose anyone, but if we did, we'll be able to pick from a better pool of prospective tenants to have our place. And that is why I believe they're recession proof. So now it's time to take some action. And a lot of people get on these webinars and go to RIAs and hear speakers, and then they go home, they don't do anything. I would strongly encourage you, before you go back along your day, if you're working on a lunch break, if you're going back to work on a house or whatever you're doing, take some type of action now, something small, so you can use something you grabbed today into your business. I can say every time I've taken action, I do it with a wiser approach because I learned from my previous action. Some of my favorite quotes on the topic of action is Jim Rohn: what is easy to do is easy not to do. It is just as easy for me to go and talk to a homeowner, to go and wear my shirt around town, to market myself, as it is to not do it and sit on the couch and watch TV. I choose to go and take action and market myself so we can buy more properties and help more people. The price of inaction is far greater than the cost of making a mistake. This quote reminds me of 2.5 years ago, I was on an investor cruise. There was a bunch of the Jack Millerites on there, and I was talking to all of them, asking them different questions. And the common theme was they were saying it's difficult to screw up buying a good deal today than waiting 2 or 3 years to buy an excellent deal. Now, a good deal is not something you're losing money on every month or even breaking even. But I believe what they really meant was the momentum you're going to get from buying that good deal, the maybe appreciation, the depreciation, the cash flow, the learning experiences, and the networking. You're getting all these things instead of waiting for this really, really good deal, this home run. And then action expresses priorities, Gandhi. So, I mean, if you're on these webinars every single week, you go to RIAs every single month for years and years, and you really haven't ever done anything, I'm gonna suggest that investing in real estate, lending in real estate, whatever your plan is not really a priority of yours. Something else is. So you just have to make it a priority in order to be very successful in real estate. So before you get back to your regular day, take some type of action. Maybe go onto Advanta's website and put in your calendar and register for the next networking event. Oh, can we go back one slide?
Yeah.
There we go. All right, that's all I have today. You guys can reach out to me. Any other questions? You can see our 2 social media, Instagram and Facebook. I try to post value add quotes there and different information, throw some videos on there. You can email me or just reach out however you can.
Great, awesome. Thank you very much, Adrian. We got a couple questions here in the end. Let's kind of go through some of them. Let's see. Roger, to your questions, the webinar is going to be recorded, and the recording will be on our YouTube channel about this time tomorrow. Typically is how long it takes to compile. And I can answer this one for you, Roger. Are mobile home park investments available in a REIT investment? There certainly are REITs out there that invest in mobile home parks, but as with any REIT, it's going to be highly illiquid. It's going to be lower returns. So some of the benefits that you might otherwise get from investing in mobile homes directly would be kind of washed out by doing it through a REIT. But again, there is attractiveness for doing it for some people like that. But it is, it is available for people out there. You just would need to look at the disclosed listing holdings of the particular REIT you're looking to invest in. Let's see. Jim, yeah, again, it'll be available for it's about this time tomorrow on our YouTube channel, so give it a look, and it should be there. Kendra, don't know if there was another part of that question. A lot of people saying, good job, Adrian. I concur with that. Joyce asked a good question, and you kind of went over this, but it would probably bear reminding people again. Other than realtors, how do you find mobile homes?
Other investors has been very well for us, worked, and I mean, really the same ways. You know, in my little market, the signs on the side of the road have worked very well. I know that they don't work as well in St. Pete, and I'm only an hour from you. So you have to find, you know, what really works. I don't enjoy doing the signs, but I'm going to be putting them out this week again, because for me, they do work in the certain areas I put them. Everything works. You just replace the word house with mobile home.
Exactly. You can answer this one while I look through the part of this other question from Kendra. Roxana asks, what should we aim for as far as cash flow percent return? I would assume that would adjust for everyone and depend on what kind of thing you're looking at. But Adrian, I will certainly let you get in deeper into that question about cash flow.
I totally agree. It really depends on what you believe is a good return. I will say for us, if it's going to be a high maintenance property, I want a higher return. If it's in an area I may not like as much, which now I don't typically buy those because we're at a point where I don't have to buy something. But when I wanted a higher return to justify the area I didn't like. Older homes, that pretty much goes on with the amount of repairs. In Florida, we have these things called hurricanes, and hurricanes turn mobile homes sometimes into hurricane missiles. So I believe you need a higher return just based on that. I would also say if you can't get insurance and you have a less of a risk tolerance, I would add that to your return. So you're going to have to take all these different things into account. I personally think anything older than 2004 in Florida, I think it's pretty irresponsible to do anything under a 20% ROI. And when I say ROI, I mean purchase price, repairs, and closing costs, everything. I don't care how much you have in it yourself, all of it, all in. And that's really because we have the hurricanes. And I'll give the brief on why I do my math that way. People say, oh, you can just move a new one on there. Well, if it's a 1970s, it's not just move a new one on there. The county's most likely going to require me to bring the septic up to code. I'm going to have to pay a few $1,000s to remove the old one that got damaged, unless I was lucky and the hurricane completely removed it from my land. I may have to deal with a well. I'm probably going to have to deal with some neighbors, maybe cutting through their yard, trimming some trees. The cost of moving a single wide was $5,000. I haven't gotten a quote since all of our lumber and labor has gone up in the last year. So there's inspections have to be done, permits have to be done, and then I actually have to get the home. If I get a home for free, I'm probably going to have to put money in it. I don't really see how it's possible to be under $20,000 unless I just find a killer deal to move a used one on the property. So it's not just move one on there. There's some cost involved in it. So I'm firm that at least 20% on the older ones, unless you really see something of other value there.
Great. That's a fantastic answer to that question. Not seeing really any more questions pop up. Let me just double check and see how many people. We still got a lot of people on here. We had, I think, 60, about like 73 or so, and we have 62 on right now. Thank you very much, everyone, for asking questions. We'll hang out here for a few more minutes. We're, right at one. So obviously, I want to make sure we respect everyone's time, including the speaker and everyone attending. So if you have any questions, now's the time to get them in there. Let's see, we have one that popped up. If someone was going to move a mobile home onto a lot, what are some of the pitfalls of moving one and putting one back? I think that was pretty well covered just now. I'm not sure if there's a specific one. I mean, you have to bring things up to code. You might have to change septic, wells, all those things that would come with, replacing something that's already there, kind of like doing that. With regard to cost, I believe, Adrian, you said you were saying you probably aren't going to see less than about $20,000, like all said and done, to do all of that. Correct? Was that roughly the figure that you kicked out there for moving and doing?
Those are numbers I've come up with. I mean, the actual moving, when you start calling movers, you're going to get quotes for $2,000, $5,000. They're going to be all over the place, and that's for a single wide. You need to ask the mover what is included, because the $2,000 guy, his fee is probably just for moving it, not the permits, not the actual strapping it down. You need to really dig into these guys of what they're including, and that's what help you answer that question. Because you're going to have, if you're going to do it central area, you're going to have a separate guy come out for that. Like I said, there's new code. There's a lot more than just the mover coming out.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of equated it a lot to, if you're going to build a new building or a house or anything on a piece of property, what all is included with that. You can get a general contractor to come out, but then, they may not do electrical. You're going to have to find another contractor for electrical. They may not do this. They may provide architectural drawings. So, it's, relatively the same, even though it is kind of as simple. And I've seen this play out over the years with clients, just moving the mobile home onto the piece of property is just one step of it. You got to get hooked up to electric. You got to get water out there. If there's no city water, you got to have a well. If there's no well, you got to have one dug, septic, all sorts of stuff.
And today we're actually getting a good amount of leads of people wanting their mobile home removed from the land. I think it's because a lot of people have been building and they've lived there for 10, 20 years. Now they're building a home, or they're just upgrading to a newer home. And you have to be careful there. That's a whole another strategy of just being a dealer, buying and selling used homes. We don't do that. We have a partner that we basically just send those leads to, and that's what his specialty is. So we let him take care of that. We just send him our leads, and a check shows up.
Yeah, and there was a question earlier, and I think this might be the correct answer to it, but it was a question regarding if you maintain a mobile homes dealer's license, and you really only need to have that, if I'm correct, Adrian, is that if you are selling like the mobile home to then in turn like two people to put on stuff. If you're buying one and selling one where it's not moving, that kind of licensing doesn't necessarily apply, correct?
Yeah, if you're doing a lot of them in the parks where within the same year you're buying and selling them, I believe you need a dealer's license as well. It would be the same as a car. So, you check with your local municipality, because the DMV is governed a little different in every state. I believe now in Wisconsin that some parts of mobile homes are not governed by the DMV anymore. That's what a friend just recently told me. But anyways, it's the same idea. You go to a DMV. If you're buying just the home and not the land, you don't go to a title company. You go to the DMV and you wait in line. You just go to a different counter.
Yep, exactly. All of our favorite place to go to get our answers is the local DMV office. Yeah, we still got some people on here. Hang out for a few more seconds, see if there's any other questions. Again, if you have any questions for Adrian, his information is up there. My information is at the very beginning. If you listen to this on a recording, you can reach me directly if you have any questions at 727-754-9954. Stephen asks, how does depreciation work on a mobile home?
If you're doing the home and land together, it's the same. I will say that we don't get a bunch of depreciation because we have purchased a lot of ours close to land value. And my real short answer is my accountant takes care of it. So I do go over stuff with my accountant, but I pay him money for a reason. but it wouldn't work any differently.
Yep. And let's see, how do you collect rent?
So we use deposit only cards, and I'm going to say a bad word. We use Bank of America, and it took me a little bit to get over my ego and actually use them, but they have these deposit only cards. I know that Chase has them and one or two other big banks. What they are is it looks just like your debit card. You can go to any smart ATM, which is basically all of them now, and you can make only deposits. We use a different one for every single property. Instead of putting the person's name, we put the street name, and we give it to them at the lease signing. And you do have to have a business account in order to do that. The money goes in right away. So if it's cash, it's just like you making a deposit for cash or checks, and then they get a receipt. That's how we're doing it. It's been working phenomenal. Lenny is the person I originally heard it from, and he's been using it, I think, for like 10 years. So it's nothing very new. They just don't know about it. So you have to talk to someone in the business department.
Great. Awesome. All right. Well, I think we probably need to get this thing wrapped up, let everyone get back to their day. Again, Adrian, I can't thank you enough for doing this. Do you have anything coming up that you'd like to plug? Any classes or anywhere that you're going to be that you'd like people to check you out at?
I don't have anything yet, but we are going to have a class or 3 this fall. So I don't have any dates yet, but you can follow on any of the social media or jump on the website and get on my email list, and I'll let you know about any classes I have, or just like this, if I happen to do another webinar, I did send out an email to everyone letting them know I'd be here today.
All righty, fantastic. Well, again, thank you very much, everyone, for attending today. The recording will be up on our YouTube channel about tomorrow at lunchtime, so check it out there if you would, if you missed part of it or you want to go back and review. Again, thank you very much, Adrian, for being a part of this today. We greatly appreciate our partners that come on and help us do some education on topics that we are by no means experts in. So thank you very much for that, and we'll let everyone get back with their day. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Have a great day.